folks, Kyle here. I'm one of the instructional designers at CBU Center for Digital Instruction. I'm going to do a video for you today about a screen recorder that is free and open source with no ads called OBS Studio. Very, very powerful. OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software, and as screen recorders go, it's just flat out probably one of the best that you could access, and it's doubly great because it is free. So let's talk about where to go to download it. You go to a browser, and we want to go to www.obsproject.com. I'm here. OBS is platform agnostic, so whether you're Windows, whether you're Mac, or whether you're Linux, you'll download or press the appropriate button and follow download instructions. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm on a Windows machine though, so that I click the Windows download button. And once OBS is downloaded, you'll have an icon here placed on your desktop if you choose to do so. Also too, that you can, if you're Windows 10, go to the Start menu, and I've already added a tile for OBS, so I'm going to open that up. And I've made sure that my window looks like your window will look when you first open up OBS software. And it may look a little complicated at first. It's really not. Let's take a little bit of a tour through OBS. This big square area here in the middle is the stage, and that's what is going to be recorded. We're going to put sources from your computer on the stage, and then we're going to start that recording. The next couple of buttons down here towards the bottom is we have scenes. In OBS, it's possible to actually film several different scenes so that you would cut down on your video editing. Well, now doing that falls outside of the scope of this video, which is really just for beginners and those of you that are new to video editing and want to use something perhaps other than Canvas Studio, or to do some video recording. Sorry, not editing. But nonetheless, if we wanted to do several scenes here, we could, and later on in this series we'll make a video on how to do that. The sources pane is one that you're going to be using quite a bit, and we hit the plus button to access the different sources that can be included on the stage. And you see we have a pretty big list here, and we display our browser, images and kind of slideshow if we wanted to, text if we wanted to. But the main ones that you're going to be using are going to be the display capture, which is your desktop, and the video capture device, which is a fancy term for your webcam. So we're going to talk about how to do that and place those here in a minute. You also have a different, another little pane here for an audio mixer, and I would suggest that if you're new to video recording and editing, just leave the defaults there. But if you wanted to click on this button, you can actually get into some of the advanced properties and advanced audio properties of mixing different sound. Again, I'm not going to do that because that falls outside of the scope of this particular video, but that capacity for you people that maybe have already have some experience with this kind of software might want to look into it. Scene transitions, again, it's kind of linked with the scene, and that actually would allow us to transition, from one particular part of the video to another particular part of the video, like a fade, or actually there are different types of transitions here, different wipes or whatever. Again, falls outside of the scope of this particular video, but nonetheless those transitions are there, and they apply to whenever we're in a situation where we have multiple scenes. Last but not least, we have the control button. That's where we would start either streaming or recording, we're not going to be streaming. We're only going to be using this for recording. And this likewise too, some of our settings are here. And again, we're not going to get into too many of those. And the one that we are going to get into, and this is assuming that you didn't fill this out at the beginning of your download, but if the configuration wizard didn't come up, then the very first thing that you want to do before you start recording is to run the configuration wizard. That's a tool, and this is auto configuration wizard. And this is going to help you initially set up OBS. For some of you, you may have done this on the installation, and for some of you, maybe not. So I want to read through here. Again, I mentioned before, we're going to be recording and not streaming, so I'm going to optimize this for recording, and then I'm going to hit next. This is talking about resolution. It's likely that you only have one, and it's usually your monitor resolution. Now I work with multiple monitors, so I have several up here, but I'm going to go ahead and just choose the middle of the row there, the 1920 by 1080. And then the FPS, the best choice for you is 60 or 30, either one, but if we can get 60, we'll get 60. And again, I'm not going to get into what that means, but just that's the default setting. You can leave it. Click next. This is just telling us some of the settings that we just input and some of the output. And again, when we're going to change that maybe or show you where the output resolution changes, and that's the quality of your video as it is produced once you've recorded it. So right now we'll click Apply Settings. If we want to get into that output and change it, we can go into settings over here under the controls. And we have a number of general settings and some settings associated with streaming audio, video. We can set up different hotkeys if we want to. But really, I want to take a look at this output. And we can, again, I'm going to ignore the streaming, but it's the recording that I want to take a look at. And the recording path is important. I'm on my personal computer here, so I get a choice here. If you're on a school computer, it's probably going to default to the C temp drive, is where your videos will be housed. I can select a folder if I want, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep this the default. Here we have our recording quality output, and we have a couple of different choices there. I'm going to choose the smallest file size, just because I know that like you, I'm going to be uploading these files into Canvas or OneDrive, and I want to make that process as easy on my network, my home network, as I possibly can. And I know too that if students are previewing these videos, they're doing so on their desktops, probably through Canvas, and so the highest quality isn't really necessary. If your format is anything other than FLV, I'd like for you to default to FLV, and I'm going to tell you why. FLV files are very flexible and are very forgiving in the event of a computer crash, a software crash, or a network lapse. So FLVs will continue to record right up until there's a crash or a lapse, and then they'll stop and save. So that whatever you've recorded up to the point that there was a crash or there was an interruption is retrievable. That is not the case with other file formats like MP4, for example. So, and some of you may be watching this video because you've run into that problem when you were recording in Canvas Studio, right? That you're recording, you had even just a tiny little network blip, and you lost your whole recording. Well, that's one of the reasons that that's happening, is because Canvas Studio only records output in MP4, and MP4 isn't flexible like an FLV file. So I'd like for you to change that default if it's not already there to FLV, and then I'm going to show you how to get around that later on. We're going to actually turn those FLV files into MP4s, but I'm going to do that once the recording is finished. And for your encoder, I think the best case here is the Software X264. Again, I had to kind of change my default there so that this had hardware, but I think that for me and for all of you, if you have that option, that's probably the best encoder to use. And we've got a few more things down here, but I'm going to go ahead and click then Apply. That's my recording output. And wait for a couple of seconds to make sure that those settings are saved. And then we can hit OK.